New Jersey, and he joins me now. Senator, it's good to have you. On the question of health care, I wanted to ask you about some reporting that you were referenced in today, and it's about the ACA subsidies. Political reporting that Senator Lisa Blunt-Rochester, invited some Republican representatives, Brian Fitzpatrick, Jeff Van Drew, New Jersey, to talk about forming a bipartisan proposal to expand or to extend those lapsing ACA subsidies. Is that true?
Well, look, what I will say is that I'm hearing from a lot of my Republican colleagues in both the Senate and now more recently from the House of Representatives. They are, I'll be honest with you, this week, they are terrified. They're really scared. I think the election results really shook them to their core. And they see how they are very clearly on the wrong side of not just this issue about health care, but on the wrong side of the American people. So, yes, I've been on the phone with a number of Republicans in Congress that are telling me just we got to find a way out of this. They want to be able to actually take action to be able to extend the ACA. And they see their leaders, including and especially Speaker Johnson, to be deeply out of touch. So I'm reaching out and I'm trying to see if there's opportunity there to make sure that the House of Representatives, that Speaker Johnson doesn't get a pass here. You know, he is somebody who has held up and not brought the House of Representatives into session for, I think, approximately 50 days, which is absolutely insane. We need to get the House of Representatives back in the session. Donald Trump needs to be at the table negotiating, and I'm going to be doing my best to generate the bipartisan and bicameral pressure to be able to have that happen.
You were in the House, you served in the House in a swing district before you became a U.S. Senator from the state of New Jersey. It was a good night for New Jersey Democrats recently. I mean, you just mentioned something that seems important to me. Is it possible for this to end without Johnson having the House members back in the Capitol? Like, I just don't see how that can happen, that these remote conversations are going to happen. I guess if Trump negotiates it directly, but it does seem like they got to come back to get this done.
Well, we absolutely need the House of Representatives back. We need them to be able to vote. We need them right now to negotiate. I mean, the fact that Trump hasn't even sat down with Democratic leaders since this whole shutdown began on October 1st, not once at all. And Speaker Johnson, I mean, I'll be honest with you, it's painful watching him do his press conference day after day, trying to come up with new excuses. But the fact that, you know, he's now going to be, you know, he's presiding over just this absolute black hole of Congress right now, it's shameful. You know, especially when so many people are struggling. It's untenable. And as I said, you know, the cracks are growing more and more, especially this week. You know, just the sheer number of Republicans that clearly see that this was a mistake for them. I really think that not having the House in session is backfiring immensely. I can't tell you how many people I heard talk about that in New Jersey. They were saying, like, look, like, what would happen to my job if I didn't show up for 45, 50 days? They don't like the idea, you know, these air traffic controllers and others that I talked to, they resent the fact that Speaker Johnson's continue to get a paycheck, even though they're not showing up to work over there, while these air traffic controllers, government workers are working hard every day without getting a paycheck. And they see that difference there, and they are pissed off.
Yeah, just to back that up with some reporting, Politico saying that House Republicans have been quietly airing frustration with Trump's approach to the record shutdown. Many are privately signaling they're prepared to break with Trump if he doesn't allow Republicans to negotiate on an extension of the Obamacare insurance subsidies Democrats are demanding. You mentioned the suffering and the real impacts of people, not just folks not getting paychecks. SNAP, which the administration is refusing to use a $5 billion contingency fund explicitly authorized by Congress, which 2 judges have now said has to be used to pay out SNAP benefits during the shutdown. Today, a judge ordering them to deliver the SNAP benefits to states by Friday, and the Department of Justice noticing that they will appeal. J.D. Vance just calling it, I think, a ridiculous decision by the federal judge. Here's what he had to say just a few moments ago. There we have that.
Fully fund SNAP. It's the latest in the back and forth, and the Justice Department said they're going to appeal it. What's your message to folks as they work this out in the courts and in Congress as we're heading into Thanksgiving?
You want to go with that?
Yeah, look, Jackie, it's an absurd ruling because you have a federal judge effectively telling us what we have to do in the midst of a Democrat government shutdown.
A federal judge said tonight.
What do you think should happen here?
Well, first of all, it shouldn't be this hard to be able to have the President of the United States be able to do what we need to do right now, which is feed people that are hungry. I mean, the fact that we require a court system to compel Donald Trump to do his job is so sad. But look, I mean, this is something we've seen all along. Republicans gutted, nearly $200 billion from SNAP earlier this year in their reconciliation bill. I mean, look, right now we are stepping up. We are demanding that the administration follow the court order. And again, these are the actions that many of my Republican colleagues understand is deeply on the wrong side. It is really hitting home to the American people one word, which is cruel. That the Trump administration is so cruel to Americans that in need. The fact that he's sending $20 billion over to Argentina, yet is unwilling to be able to feed hungry people in America and is using them as a political weapon, talking about SNAP as if it's only helping Democrats. Over 7 million Republican households are in districts that are held by Republican members of Congress. This is so clearly something that we should be doing to help everybody.
All right, Senator Andy Kim of New Jersey, thanks for your time tonight.
Thank